Welcome, friends, come on in. Let's explore where truth begins. Here inside, shining bright, wisdom grows as we unite. Let's open doors to heart and mind. Let's shine the light. Oh.
Hello, this is Susan Pitcairn. Welcome to our show today. We have an excellent guest. The more you get to know Tom Shoemaker, he no longer seems like just an ordinary person. He seems like someone with extraordinary memories, wisdom, insights, and soul journeys. And that makes me wonder, how much do we miss in other people that we just think are kind of ordinary? So let's take a deeper look beneath the surface at the depths of what is apparently someone called Tom Shoemaker. So Tom, welcome to Open Doors. Interviewing people that I know, especially.
Okay.
People that aren't maybe well known. Maybe you're more well known than I think. I don't know. Could be. But that have something really interesting to say.
You still invited me, even though you wanted something interesting to say. Okay, I'll see what we can do.
That's exactly the kind of comment that's interesting about you. When I first met you, maybe 10 years ago, you were active in Zen improvisational comedy kind of stuff, and also met through some vegan associations and potlucks and things, and you've been attending our vegan potluck for the last 5 or more years.
Mm-hmm.
And especially since COVID, we've been exploring a lot of the things that are going on in the world, just not accepting everything the way we hear it. And in the process, though you're sometimes one of the more quiet people in the group, I find that there's a level of wisdom in you that I feel like I'm just beginning to understand. I don't know.
If you figure it out, let me know.
Okay.
I do go in waves, so it's like
Okay.
I will engage or I will retreat.
Okay.
And I have to be invited in,
Okay.
which is why I'm here today.
Okay, good. You've said some really interesting things that are unusual for anyone. And I wanted to explore some of them. And one of them is that I know that you grew up in the Midwest in Ohio, and it's a very conventional kind of place. And a lot of good people that are family people and have small businesses and farmers and all that. But at some point, you took a turn towards exploring the larger things in life and the world and so forth.
Well, maybe if I give you just a little snippet of Tom point one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what point I am these days.
Right.
Grew up in Cincinnati. I was the youngest of 4. It was now my oldest sister and myself. The 2 boys in between have passed on. Mm-hmm. I was 5 or 6 years younger than my next oldest sibling, so I kind of grew up almost like an only child. Mm-hmm. They were into their own things. Mm-hmm. Spent a lot of time kind of with myself, as far as with the dog, watching clouds and this, that, and the other. I would say that the first possible shift for me, I think I was on track to probably be very religious.
Huh.
I was growing up Catholic.
Oh.
First and second grade. I even got in trouble once in church because they thought I was messing around, but I was saying the name Jesus so much that my head kept bobbing up and down.
Wow.
They said, "Still, Tom." No. But by divine intervention, that all changed when I was in the 3rd grade because my mom got struck by lightning.
Wow.
And she was okay. But prior to that, stormy day, lightning, thunder, and I had a little altar. I had like dozens of statues, holy water. I'm out doing my,
You're really into it.
Oh yeah, 2nd, 3rd grade, whatever this was.
Wow.
And I'm doing all that. And my mom's getting ready to walk out on the front porch. Mm-hmm. And going out the front door, there's the front door. Actually, it was an aluminum screen door.
Right, typical.
A light switch, and then the living room. And as she's going over, I called over to her or something like that, and she put her hand on the wall just as lightning hit the house, blew the electric socket out.
Wow.
Knocked my mom on her butt. Something in my mind at that time said, all my prayers didn't work because we still got struck by lightning. And I kind of quit. I still did 12 years of Catholic schools, but I kind of had a whole different view towards life after that. Now I look back at that, maybe that's why she didn't get knocked completely out and killed.
Right.
I was with her twice when she was struck with lightning.
Wow.
And so I'm not sure if they were aiming for me or aiming for her.
You know,
But
it tends to happen repeatedly to the same people.
yeah. The second time it was just hit the telephone pole in front of us as we were driving, and
Yeah.
she just drove over. But I was in the car with her, so maybe the two of us together we were pulling these things. I always say that I was probably on track to be a certain way, but in the third grade I said, this doesn't really work. I'll just do something different. I mean, in my mind.
Yeah. That's a turning point in terms of your parent thoughts, your core thoughts, your core beliefs. And one other thing that must have happened somewhere around that time that you told me once, and I was like, really? was that you saw a disc-shaped UFO in your backyard, and you saw faces of like gray aliens looking out the window.
Yeah, I was probably around 6 years old, and I was trying to think back on this the other day. I don't know if I had the remembrance of this years later, because I know at 6 years old I didn't tell anybody about it. But whether it came as a remembrance later, I don't think it was through a regression or anything like that. But yeah, very vividly in my mind, around 6 years old, in my front yard, I can see where it was at. We had a street going down this way, and hovering right above there, above treetop level, saucer shape, viewing portal, and what now I would call a gray.
Was that daytime or nighttime?
Daytime.
Wow.
Dead. I found out years later we had a military place close by, and they were used to getting flyovers there. It's called Millicron. They were a production place to make military weapons. So I don't think they were looking for me that day. Other days, who knows? People say they see me up on ships, but
right. Well, you said that too, and that's like interesting. Like, who has said that, and how often, and what context?
I've had that over the years. Plus, I used to do regressions with people, a lot of alien abductions and things, so sometimes they would remember me from being up on a ship and things. I look at all those things as that, what difference does it make? Is it a metaphor? Is it real? And how's it affecting my life? Now, I used to do a lot of regressions with people, and I would tell them that the same way. I said, it really doesn't matter if what you're remembering is something you kind of made up, or if it's a real memory. What's it doing for you? And if it's helping you, maybe you don't want to let go of it. And if it's hurting you, then we'll figure out some way to make things better, and I would help them with that.
Yeah, so that's another thing that's really interesting about you, is it seems like you studied NLP, I believe, a little bit, but you developed your own take on something, on
the synchronicities in life. I had taken a weekend course in NLP, and I decided I'd like to get trained in this. This is probably late 80s, early 90s, somewhere there. And so synchronicity, I got a hold of the person who gave that class in Cincinnati. She says, well, the premier class is being held in about 3 weeks in Winter Park, Colorado. My sister's, the woman I was talking to, her sister and her partner were actually high up in the NLP training. I can't remember their names at this point. She says, but it always sells out like a year in advance.
Wow.
She said, but here's their number. So I call up, we just had a cancellation. Okay, so I get that, and then I call around. They didn't have any place at the lodge. I finally got myself the equivalent of an Airbnb now, but it was a condo. So everything, boom, boom, boom. 100 people from around the world, all walks of life, and it was a month-long training, 6 days a week in Winter Park, Colorado.
That really was a top level.
They gave all the different techniques and things. But the one takeaway I had from the NLP is that a lot of it was what I considered a quick fix. They would go in and through different physiologies and things go in and change the wiring in your brain so that this represented this or this didn't represent this. And an example that would be used, and they weren't telling you to go do this, but an example would be used is that you're a car salesman, and you're talking back and forth, and you say that, hey, tell me about that last vacation you had. Oh, I was at this, and I enjoyed it, and then you pat him on the back a little bit, and said, that must have been wonderful, and just what you're looking for. And then later on, you're looking at this old beat-up Chevrolet, and you say, oh, isn't this a nice car? Isn't this what you're looking for? And it's wired through your body. That was just a
what
weird...
you're looking for, they use the same phrase.
Right. And it would be like rewiring your brain. I didn't think that was very fair.
It's sort of manipulative.
Right. And I was a believer in Zen, that everything has purpose. And so who was I to cross-wire somebody, even if it was a bad belief system? So what I came back and I put out to the universe is that when I came back, and those were, most NLP sessions were maybe 15, 20 minutes. I came back from it and said, basically the universe says, let me have the right people and the right technique. Well, I started doing 3-hour long what I called soul regressions.
Wow.
And I would take people back in a timeline, see different things in this life or in past lives. Once again, it didn't matter if they were making it up or not, but they're giving the stories that they would be telling me. I was just providing a safe space. Then we would go in, and that was going in, and then at the second phase was having a dialogue, building resources. I'm just sort of condensing this really quick here. And then the third phase would be installing those and going back out into parallel life. And what they would do is they were picking up new possibilities. So I didn't take anything away. I just gave a better choice, helped them find a better choice. And one of the things the NLP did say is that given two choices, a human will always take what they perceive to be the best for them. Mm-hmm. Well, in the past, if they were always blocked because they always had the same circular things going on, I just gave them an extra option. Uh-huh. But it changed a lot of people's lives.
I'll bet it did. And what really amazes me about that, because I was going through some trainings kind of along the same lines a little bit about the same time in the late 80s, early 90s, Hakomi and some of the people were taking NLP and so forth. And I had done a little bit of past life regression before that, but it seems to me, especially in the Midwest, if that's where you were at the time, that seems like that was really advanced. I mean, like you just kind of jumped into that stuff without needing permission or without having to really get certified or any of that kind of thing. And I think that's really admirable. And I just wonder, about you, like where that came from. I mean, you must be an old soul, I guess, or something. I don't know. What gave you the courage to do all that?
I don't know. I wouldn't call it courage. It just, I always had an eclectic way of looking at life. Mm-hmm. In high school, in a Catholic all-boys high school, the priest would allow me to read hypnosis, pyramid powers.
Really?
The Lord of the Rings before it ever was a movie and anybody ever talked about it. So I could do basically anything I would want because they knew where I was. I don't know if they knew where I was going, but they knew it was okay.
Catholic setting.
At least this one English instructor, he allowed me to do lots of things. And we would write book reports on it and things like that. I enjoyed all that kind of stuff. But I would do a lot of those things that were not normal even back then. Mm-hmm. I came out of, I would call my spiritual closet in the late 80s. What I mean by that is that, so I grew up always experimenting with pyramids, and
like all the kids do.
Yeah, I mean, all kinds of things
so.
Things like that. And then I got to the point to where I was always doing it solo.
Okay, what do you mean by experimenting with pyramids? You weren't building pyramids.
Yeah, well, I was building at scale. And putting fruit underneath of it.
Like toy models.
Yeah, not the big one. I haven't done that one for a long time.
Plastic models you
I may have been involved in the first one.
Have. Okay, well, I wouldn't be surprised.
That's a story in itself.
Okay, I would like to hear that. Because you have a pyramid story too. Yeah. Hold that thought. Okay.
But anyway, so I was doing all these things, but I always did it solo.
Yeah.
And then I found out about a metaphysical bookstore that started out, because Cincinnati's pretty low-key, especially back in the 80s. And I found out about this thing where people were coming together and they were doing meditation and doing things like, I'll give it a try. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I've never stepped out of my spiritual closet. So I was stepping out of my closet spiritually.
Right. Was this after you were married and had children even?
Oh yeah. So a little background with that. I was married for 17 years. I got 4 kids. 9 grandkids, 2 great grandkids, all from the first wife. So I'm married at the time, and I go over to this bookstore, and it was like the scene from the bar scene in the original Star Wars. All the eclectic. Yeah. There's one guy over here doing faith healing. There's another one over here channeling somebody else. There's another one talking to Pleiadians, and I said, man, I feel like I'm right at home. So that was my first stepping into the exposure of something bigger. And from there, took many workshops, many classes, had civil mind control master levels of that. I did the NLP type of thing. Lots of other little side things, a couple levels of Reiki when it first came over, years and years ago when Virginia Sandow first brought it over from Japan and via Hawaii. But did lots of eclectic things. and just kept putting it into my toolbox.
Yeah, wow. Amazing. Well, so before we forget, speaking of pyramids a minute ago, you told me not too long ago was that you were doing some toning in one of the rooms in the Great Pyramid, and it kind of blew out the lights or something like that.
Yeah, another eclectic adventure. I had just done a lot of traveling. This is after my divorce from my first wife. I was doing a lot of traveling. I'd been a month in Hawaii and a month in Australia and everything else, and I wanted to spend more time with the kids. But I get a phone call from somebody, I think his name was Michael Schuster, a long time ago. And he had told me he was a psychic. And I met him in Cincinnati. Most of my friends have always been psychics, even though I always say I'm a lazy psychic. I don't know what I'm doing. I always let somebody else verify. But he said, Tom, he says, you told me I was going to do this trip. He was going to do this trip to Egypt. He says, if I had a really great opportunity, I should let you know. Well, long story short, he had odd number of people, and to make me become the even number, I could get it at his cost, so say thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm in Egypt with 12 psychics, and we're doing all the rogue things. This is just before Solara went over for the 11/11 event. Matter of fact, they were in Egypt. There's synchronicities with that too. But we were a rogue group that we were not part of that at all, but we were there at the same time. So we're inside the pyramid. I'm laying in a sarcophagus. And
Whoa. You can lay in a sarcophagus in the pyramid? Anyone can?
well, I won't say anybody. The guy that was the coordinator of the tour company, Nagy was his name. His family at one time owned the transportation company in Egypt, but when they nationalized it, they kicked him and his family out, but he kept all the ties. So he got his red carpet treatment everywhere, and he went with us on the tour.
Wow.
So he got us into all these places that maybe you
I
can
didn't
get
know
into.
you could do that. Wow.
Yeah.
I've never been to the pyramid.
Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But yeah, there's this long walkway. You go up, you go into this huge chamber, and it's got this sarcophagus. It's not really a sarcophagus, it's a sound chamber, but they call it a sarcophagus. And I was laying in it and sending out my tones, and I still don't know if it was a human or something else, but all the lights went out and they had to go back down that long ramp to throw the breaker. So somebody was messing with us. Recently I heard that in that chamber, above it, there are huge rocks, so like several tons each, that they now think that they are actually sounding rocks.
Huh.
And that maybe my tones affected something and blew the circuit. I don't know.
Well, there has been that story, hasn't there, about the pyramids that there's levitation through sound and stuff with sound. Yeah. So you've had an interest. Okay, so going a little bit sideways or straightforward there into sound. You've had an interest in toning for some time too. Can you tell us about that and maybe give us a little demo even perhaps?
I can probably do both. I project out tones, and how that first came is that my voice resonates in my body like anybody's does. But I felt that back in my 20s, and I could feel like a vibration. And if I had a little back pain or something like that, kind of hum, oh, it feels kind of good. And then I would make a louder noise. And then I realized that I could use that for many things. So when I was in nature and I didn't have the words to express my gratitude for the beauty, I would put it into a thought and then send out a tone. And often I'll hear the tones in my head, and my challenge is to see if my body can replicate that sound. I've done it in the pyramids. I've done it on top of Uluru. I've done
What's
it
Uluru?
on Uluru's Ayers Rock, the big red rock in Australia. I went up on top of that years ago. Lots of sacred places I've done all that the things at. I've had people ask me to do it to open portals. I don't know. I did it. They said the portal opened. I didn't see it. I'm a lazy psychic. I've done it and brought whales up. I've done it for healing. One time I was playing with a friend a little mischievously, and we were out walking in the woods, and I just decided to send out a tone and knocked her on her ass. Didn't really mean to hurt her, but it's like I just wondered what would happen. So it can be used for lots of things. I just call it toning with intent. I used to do some workshops back in Cincinnati. I don't do
You
anything.
can teach them?
I would help other people. There is no frequency. There is no wording. It's just putting your thoughts into a sound and giving yourself permission to do it.
And I never heard of this until I met you. And I was in California and did lots of workshops in Oregon and places. A lot of stuff like this was happening. Like I never heard this before. Yeah. But it seems to me like very possibly you have past life or past lives in civilizations, be it Egypt or Atlantis, or who knows what, where it's been reported that sound was a big part of what they were doing.
I have a remembrance slash hallucination. It doesn't matter.
Whatever.
Metaphor.
I love that attitude.
It's a story of that's how the pyramids were actually put together, is sounding those rocks into space, into place.
Yeah.
Vibrationally putting them in there. Also, when I was laying in a sarcophagus, I had an awareness of a spaceship, perhaps in another hallucination, that I knew something about that's still going to be discovered in the sands by the pyramids. And there's that.
Did you have any sense of those things that they found underneath the pyramids?
What they came out with a couple months ago for a week and then nobody talks about it anymore, that doesn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I just...
Yeah, I didn't experience that.
Yeah.
You know, so one of the things that I've noticed, like when you talk about all these extraordinary experiences, extraordinary for most people, the average Joe, that I just see a certain humility, like you don't take it too seriously. And one of the quotes I've actually quoted you on is like, you know, I try not to take being human too personally.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. It's something we're doing. It's a gig that we're doing. It's like playing a part for improv. This is what we're playing today.
Yeah.
And, you know, and another one I like to say is that maybe we're playing this today, or maybe this is 20 years from now remembering us having this conversation.
Yeah, your mind's very, very open.
Yeah,
It seems
so
like
it's kind of like something...
And you're not taking... It seems like you've passed that, I would call it a test of spiritual pride. You know, where people get special powers, or they find something really interesting, or they have some intimation of some extraordinary past life or something like that, and then suddenly, you know, it's all about me, and I'm the teacher, the guru, and so on. Mm-hmm. I don't see that in you. Maybe you do that in some other life, but it seems like I
don't know if I've ever told this story or not, but as a metaphor, and I always preface things like this because it could just be a story.
Right.
And it could be something else.
And all of life could be just a story.
I always had, when I lived in Japan, I had this impression, and I came back from Japan with the word moo, and I didn't know what that meant, but I just kept hearing that word in my mind. Yeah. This was back in the 70s. Right. And then I realized that moo was short for Lemuria, and then I realized that I possibly had a time in Lemuria, or I read in my life book chapter, I read a book about it, I don't know. But anyway, so I'm in Lemuria, and apparently I was projecting out possibilities. I used to have a card in this life that said Mahoney's Possibility Engineering.
Yeah.
And that I was just helping people with possibilities. So back in that Lemurian time, the story goes that I was basically high up. I don't know how high up, but high up. And people were looking to me and clinching on everything I said. And I said, well, you should go do this and you should go do this. Well, when Lemuria fall, I took it personally that I had pretty well told people what to do. Mm-hmm. Then I had...
So you felt guilty?
I felt like I had, you know, given them something that maybe they weren't ready for, or who knows what.
You felt badly about it.
But I felt like I had overdone.
Yeah.
And then for the longest time, I kept running into people they claimed that they had an Atlantean background. I said, I don't have an Atlantean background. Mm-hmm. Well, then finally I had a remembrance hallucination of Atlantean times, and it was on a side island to Atlantis, and I saw what they were doing, and I knew that it was going to blow up, and I wouldn't get involved. I just would not engage, and it blew up. So I'm so all-powerful. In Lemuria, I helped destroy it because I did too much. In Atlantean times, I helped destroy it because it didn't do anything. And so this lifetime, I'm just kind of in the middle. I don't need to do anything special. If somebody wants to do something, that's up to them. I throw a lot of humor in there so they have to question if anything I say is real or total BS. Yeah. And let them do whatever they want with it.
That's interesting. What we're talking about also brings up these kind of fundamental questions. I want to make sure there's a couple of things I was thinking about that we've talked about sometimes in our potluck, and I'm not sure if I've really understood how you see it in the context of your soul's journey. Like one would be like, what do you think God is? And how many of us are there here? Zillions of us, or just one question? Another is, what do you make of what we would call evil, or just really torturous, cruel things that the humans have done through the ages. And what's the purpose of life? I kind of like to hear your philosophy, your cosmology, really, of what life's all about.
All those simple questions.
All
huh?
simple questions that no one's ever thought about before. You know.
Wow.
Do you want to start? Do you want to take one at a time, kind of, or?
No, I don't know.
Okay,
just free flow.
Just free flow.
I do get sometimes on my tours. I get asked, just people different questions. I had somebody asked the other day. They said, "Do you believe in God?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, it's just I definitely believe that there is a prime creator. Call him God, call it the universe, call it whatever you want to call it. But there's something far beyond what we are, and yet we are that same God."
Mm-hmm. Like drops of water in the ocean.
Yeah, like drops of water in the ocean. We're just representing what's going on. So it's not like we are trying to aspire to be, or we're just trying to forget all the garbage that we took on that's keeping us from having that experience now. So many people here in Sedona appear to be in a hurry to get out of here. Go to the new earth, go to the next world, go to the next lifetime, get rid of this karmic cycle. I think this is an amusement ride. I think it's something fun to do. I always think back when my kids were growing up at Disneyland, they used to have the E-tickets. So it was, A was like the merry-go-round, B would be the water ride, and like the E would be like Space Mountain and all these kind of things. And you would wait for an hour in line to ride that one ride. And all the time you're riding in line, you're complaining. Oh man, this is taking so long. What am I waiting for all this? Yeah. Then you get on that roller coaster, you get so wow, and then you get out and you get back in line again. I think that's what happens with our lives here, is that this is the e-ticket of life, being here on Earth with all the craziness that's going on. And while we're waiting in line for something to take place, it's lots of things happen, things we may not be that happy about. But once we get going through it, it's like, I think I might go back again.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I don't know if I answered any of those questions. So there's a God. Yeah, I play poker with him every Thursday night. You know what? You can't bluff. That's the only thing with God. He calls you on it every time.
Okay. I was thinking about this one time. If I were God and I was setting up a universe, how would I do it? I thought, well, first of all, I'd have individuality, so you could have individuals who could play with each other. Then you'd have free will, so they're not all slaves of each other or of themselves or God or anyone else. There's some unpredictability. But you'd also have something like karma to keep things in rein, so that they don't go too far off base and do unto others what they never want done unto themselves. So that basic rule would apply. And there was another thing or two, but those were I thought were kind of the fundamentals that seemed like they had to be in place for a universe to work. And by a universe, I mean something other than just a blob of pure consciousness or light or something infinite, something in the world of form. Would you agree with that, or would you modify that? Or
I like the Gary Larson version.
What's that?
Remember Gary Larson with The Far Side?
Yeah.
He had one thing where God was creating the universe and he's putting a little of this and a little of this, and then he had like one box of total chaos. He says, I should add some of this.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So, yeah, I think I could agree with most anything you're saying with that.
But the chaos is the unpredictability. I was saying,
I think
free will makes for unpredictability.
If it was too simple, then there's no challenge. If there's no contrast, there's not as much. Another tangent, I was talking to a friend once, and she was, at the time, she got through this, but she was kind of on a wheelchair, or she was having a lot of problems. And I was talking to her once, I said, she says she was in a lot of pain too. And she confided, she says, the thing of it is, Tom, she says, if I had to do it and I knew this was the only way that I could experience it here, I definitely would take all the pain. Because if I was out of pain but couldn't feel all the other emotions and couldn't feel all the joy and all the happiness, I don't like the pain, but if it meant being neutral and peaceful and never having contrast, I'll take the pain.
Yeah.
So I think that we're in a world of contrast. I do shake my head sometimes and say the kids have gotten it really messed up. I don't think it needs to be this crazy. I don't think humans need to treat each other the way that they treat each other. I think we can learn lessons a lot differently, but I think we've gone off on tangents. It's like, okay, how far can I
Yeah.
control others? How far can I take their energy away? How far can I
Is it?
have my life great? It's like, yeah, we're all in it together.
Yeah. It seems like it's. I mean, I was influenced a lot by, I guess, Eastern Vedantic kind of thought when I studied yoga when I was in my 20s, and just the idea that that's Leela, it's God's play, that God kind of gets God's self, if you will, lost in the drama in order to find himself, itself, ourself again. And that makes sense to me, but I also wonder if it's possible for us as fractals of God, if you will, or the divine, to get so lost it's like irretrievable. I know in Michael Newton's book on Journeys of Soul, there just seem to be some souls that are retrievable and they just destroy them.
I think people can get lost. Is it irretrievable? How can you not be God even if you're lost? How can you not still have the spark of the divine in you even if you're total evil? Evil doesn't exist outside of God. It's got to be part of the spice thing. He may have put too much spice in when he was shaking that chaos in.
Right. Now some people would disagree with you on that. It seems like
That's all right. They're wrong, I'm right. That's okay.
Like A Course in Miracles seems to say, like, it wasn't God's fault, like somehow it was people's fault, but wait a minute, who created people? That's what I go into. Like,
Well, I think it would be both.
yeah,
In this play that we're playing, in this game that we're participating in, there are constraints and rules. And so people...
which we've agreed to.
Right, I think.
Yeah.
I think before we came into this, that was agreed
Play
upon.
Monopoly, and here's the rules.
Basically. And so, yeah, I think that it is up to humans to sort through stuff. I don't think it's God being evil or angry. It's like, my God's better than your God.
Yeah.
And, two football teams, like, God bless us and annihilate them. And the other side saying the same darn thing. So it's kind of like, get over yourselves. But it's part of the game that we're playing here of contrast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, moving into that realm of individuals experiencing life in zillions of ways. There's not only humans and not only, of course, animals and plants and all that, but there's also what people call ETs, or maybe they are from other dimensions. They might some people say that they're demons, angels, and all of that. You have had a fair amount of experience. I would suspect some of it maybe you don't even know about from given that childhood experience. I think you probably were abducted. I don't know, but or something like that. But what do you think all that is? You do UFO tours for your living right now, and you take people out and you with military grade binoculars and you see all the stuff in the sky moving around. I know you've seen some pretty unusual things. What do you make of all that?
It's just better than Netflix. I mean, it's something, it's something to watch, something to...
It's the part, so that's your overarching story, is that it's all a story.
Yeah, it's just a story. I mean, is there aliens? Yes. Is there extraterrestrials? Yes. Are they here to hurt us? Are they here to help us? Yes. They're like people.
Yeah.
I mean, there's good ones and there's bad ones. I got many a story as far as, how they let me know that. But as far as, it's just there. But it can also just be a metaphor. And like on the tours, I tell them at the very beginning of the tour, even though I've had all these paranormal things that I've done and experiences, I'm not out to convince you of anything. Mm-hmm. Just look at the possibility, have an open mind, make up your own mind. And in the middle of the tour, when they're saying, oh, look at that ship going across, I said, well, now, full disclosure, I've got to let you know. This could be the Truman Show. And I just painted all those pretty dots up on the ceiling to make them have to think, like, is this real or not? I said, it's just a computer game that we're playing.
Is that ultimately what you think it is? I mean, there was people have been talking a lot the last few years about it's all just a simulation, it's all just a game. And there's movies like Contact or whatever, or the Truman Show where they touch the ceiling. It's that kind of stuff. It's kind of fake. And do you have any, you might say, personal evidence or experience that that's really the way it is? That
I don't have any personal experience that I'm even here today. I mean, it's just a belief that I'm sitting in this chair. It's my belief that
Tom.
I could be laying at home in bed, sleeping right now, having a delusion that I'm sitting here talking to you. So, I mean, I know that's kind of not answering your question, but it's like, it's all made up and it's all real. I am here, so I'm having a great conversation. I'm here on Earth. I've often said I'm only on Earth for R&R and the pretty girls. So it's like, I'm just down here having a good time, but that's my belief system, my choice. Other people, it's like, I'm working through my karma.
Yeah.
I'm working through this.
Yeah.
I'm here to suffer because I was bad in my last lifetime. Get over yourself. Have a good life now.
Mm-hmm.
So ETs, yeah, they're around.
But you're not afraid of them, or are you?
If I drove through a new city, there's certain neighborhoods
Right.
that I would pay attention not to drive
Right,
through or
right.
keep my windows up.
Exactly.
And the same thing with ETs. I do believe that in all species there's good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that some species are more good or
Mm-hmm.
bad.
Mm-hmm.
And am I afraid of them? I've hiked 10, 12,000 miles in Sedona. There's wild
Mm-hmm.
animals out there I'm not afraid of, but I'm respectful. I'm paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm in their territory and they don't want me there,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I want to move. If I'm
Mhm.
between mama bear and baby bear, I better go
Yeah.
do something quick.
Yeah.
So I don't go into the trails, and I use my hiking as a metaphor all the time. I don't go do my hiking in a fear base, and I don't live my life in a fear base. When it comes to the aliens, I'm not fearful of. Some of them just don't have good manners, and that's a whole other story too, as far as like, they may not, maybe they're only giving you the respect that you're requiring. So the ones that are getting abducted and getting the implants and getting all the things, all the craziness that happens with that, maybe that's because it's like, oh, they're aliens and I just want to experience it. That's another thing I tell them on my tour. It's like, be specific. There's good ones and bad ones. Don't just say you want to get abducted,
Right.
because you might get probed and prodded all night long, or you might be, the best time of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like people can worship the good aliens too, in a way, or what is projected or seen as that. And to me, it seems like there's delusions that can happen in that path.
Well, when you say worship, isn't that what some people tend to want to do? They want to put their power into somebody else, into the guru, into the priest, into the alien,
Absolutely.
into their parents, whatever the thing would be, into the government. I don't think anybody's that dumb anymore. Well, maybe we won't get into that.
Okay.
But people want to give away their power as opposed to owning their own power.
Mm-hmm.
So an alien can be somebody that can help you on the path, not be concerned about your path at all, or hinder you on your path, but they're not the answer. I mean, It's like they're not going to, now as you're filming this thing here, 3-eye Atlas is coming around. By the time you put that up, we may all be dead. Some people think that that's going to be the end all, and some people think that it's just a big rock. And so just enjoy today, so it doesn't make any
There's
difference.
always been this, there's a book written once when I was in graduate school, this professor told me about, called Endings. And it's all about the sociology of endings. And so, like in the year 1000, there was a big expectation that the world was going to come to an end and Jesus would come back and all that. And ever before and since then, there's been this idea that collectively everything will end. And then it will lead to something else. And it's repeated again and again and again. And we've seen all these cults that say the world's going to come to an end. I remember when I was in school, and like somebody in the playground would say, the world's going to come to an end next Thursday. And I'm going, really? So I just think that there's something in human beings that wants to play that game.
I think it's genetically encoded, because I think there has been endings.
To
And you don't have to go back as far as thousands of years ago. Just within our lifetimes, Y2K,
Right.
2012, all these things that the Hopi prophecies. Some of the Hopi prophecies are saying that 3-eye Atlas is the blue Kachina coming around to end the fourth world and go into the next. They don't say necessarily that everything's going to end, but just means that the attitudes are going to change. Perhaps maybe some people don't make it through. But I think that genetically we're encoded. I do believe that there's been many, like at the end of the movie Matrix, where he walks into the architecture or whatever the guy's name was, the guy that created the Matrix, and he walks into there and he's got 100 TV screens, and every one of them showed him walking in there at a different time. I think we've played this game before. I think that there has been past civilizations. I don't think that the one that we're talking about now is the only game in town.
Right.
Whether it was pushed to reset or whether it was like, oh, let's play this program instead of this program. I don't know how, what took place. And so I think genetically, ancestrally encoded in us is the understanding that things do end, but we jump the gun sometimes and, say, oh, so-and-so, this just happened, so the world's going to end. It's like, probably not.
No, it seems to me like everything's cyclical, and Eckhart Tolle said something kind of interesting one time. It was along the lines that maybe the whole universe is really just one cycle of expansion and contraction, and that he had a sense that maybe that it was actually contracting back to at the whole universe. It's kind of hard to generalize, but I mean it's huge. It's contracting back to pure consciousness.
What if the whole universe is only this blip, and there's the mega universe that
there could be other ones.
Our universe is just.
It could be. I know it's sort of infinite, but it could be that there's a huge cosmic cycle that we may be part of also.
Oh, what is the thing called? Taurus or TARDIS or something like that?
Toroid or something.
Where it kind of goes in and comes back out, and maybe this just constantly sifting through.
Right, or the black hole. They said that, and he intuited that there was a black hole in the middle of every galaxy. Then later on they said that's true. But what is a black hole? Is that maybe just where all the matter gets sucked into it, but then it comes out somewhere else in another universe? I don't know. Maybe that's beyond us right now.
I think it's like being in the toy store, and you are the little horse in the Monopoly game, and you're trying to figure out what all the other games in the store is, and all the other stores in the mall is, and all the other. It's like they're out there, but you just be a horse and play the game.
That's a great analogy. It really is. So that's what I see. I'm kind of stitching this together. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like your overarching philosophy is around just enjoy it, have a good time, do your best, play by the rules.
Well, that wouldn't even say play by the rules.
Be nice.
The old sandbox thing. Leave it a little bit nicer than when you got there. Don't infringe on anybody else's
that's fine.
stuff.
I play by the rules. I don't.
You can have your beliefs. I can have mine. I had one buddy of mine that he went heavy in the Native American, the Anglo. But back in the 80s, when we were doing a lot of Lakota ceremony and people were coming in, he did a lot of sun dancing. He did piercing and everything like that, where they put the bone through your skin. And I said, Mike, I love you. He did it like 5 times. I said, don't ever try to talk me into doing that because, that's not my path. And he never did try to talk me into it.
Did he stay with it?
He did for many, many, many years. He's still very into it, but they actually presented him with a pipe and allowed him to do ceremony. And I mean, he went out to the reservations. He's still very in touch with that. Girl I was dating at the time, she wanted to participate. She did flesh offering, where you take a piece of your skin out. Wow. That's their way of giving back, was what it was. Not my belief system.
Right.
Maybe it was in a past time, but this time, I want to keep what I got.
Yeah. No, I've had some past life stuff related to all that, and specifically to encoded things, and there was a sense that was the lesson was to get over that kind of sense of pride of like, look how tough I can be, and how much I can take.
Oh, I don't want to get the impression. My buddy Mike, he was never boisterous about it. This is just his way of honoring his path with them. Was doing their ceremony and tying themselves to the tree and all those kind of things. They go out to the reservation every year. That was his way of doing it. He brought with that a degree of respect, but it wasn't like, hey, look at me type of thing. Very humble.
So when you witness people, there's many of them today, that are doing and saying things that seem kind of off the wall, or let's just say naive, or jumping to conclusions about this and that, or they listen to the latest, channel or whatever on the internet that says something about, well, here's what's going on. It's like how do you take that?
I try not to judge it, but I also sift it through 70 years of my own experience this lifetime. And many of the things that people are now doing in Sedona, I did back in the 70s and 80s, not so much 70s, but the 80s back in Cincinnati. So it's kind of like a new version of it, but it's the same thing. But what's the outcome? What are they looking for? What are they trying to get to? Anybody that comes to me and says, I know the answer, that's when my haunches go up a little bit, like, I want to hear what you have to say, but chances are it's your answer. It may not have anything to do with me or anything else like that. So I try not to poo-poo somebody's, thing, unless it's like really so bizarre. And it's kind of like, you might want to look at this because this is going to happen. You put you put the fork into the electric socket, almost always you're going to get shocked. It may be your new idea, but it's going to happen.
Yeah. It seems like you have a wide respect for free will in the sense of people make their own choices and they live with them. And so you respect their beliefs, you don't agree with them necessarily, but you respect that their right to have them and to make their mistakes, and you're not here to save anyone.
Definitely not here to save anyone. My challenge in this life is to do without overdoing or underdoing, kind of going back to the metaphor of Lemuria and Atlantis. If somebody invites me into a space and they want to hear my thoughts on something, they can do with it what they want. But I don't need to convince them that I'm a vegan. I know why I'm a vegan. I know why I'm passionate about being a vegan, but I'm not going to go into the restaurant and start, you shouldn't be eating this, and the other.
Not going to be an activist.
If they have a question. The one woman I dated for a couple of years, she started out, she wasn't even vegetarian. And she started asking questions. And I said, don't ask questions that you may not be able to reverse the answers from. And once she found out why I was vegan, even after we broke up, as far as I know, years later, she's still a vegan. So she took what that insight was and did it. But if they're not bothering me directly, even though it can be argued, if sticking with the vegan thing for a minute, if they're doing something to the animals that is indirectly harming something, it's not my challenge in this lifetime to try to change any of that. Just be who I am. If that affects you and ripples out, the old thing about if you affect one person in your life, you did a good job.
So it seems like some of this may go back to those memories or imaginations or whatever they were of Lemuria and Atlantis, like maybe interfering too much or not enough.
Yeah, definitely. That's my metaphor for this life. Not to do too much or too little. Just kind of that blend in between.
Yeah.
Recently, I've gotten into human design. I've talked
Human design.
Human design, which is a step above, in my mind, it's a step above astrology. Okay. And they give you based on, it's kind of a combination of astrology and the gene keys and a bunch of different stuff. But one of the things it said is that my makeup, I think it's a projector 6'2" or something like that, or 2'6" or something like that. But part of that makeup is that you need to be invited in. That's who I am. And that in the lifetime, that this phase of my life is just if somebody has questions and invite me in, it's not trying to change them, but just giving them what you've learned. And I said that since I was in my 20s, that I would always live to be 120 if I so choose. The first 40 years was learning it. The next 40 years was applying it. And the last 40, if you wanted to know the secrets of what I found out, come on up to the hot tub up on the mountain, bring your own bottle of wine. I don't drink anymore, but back that time, bring your own bottle of wine. But it's kind of like, I'll share you my wisdom. I'm not going to come down off my mountain to bother with you if you want to come up there. And that's kind of what the gene keys and the human design says too, is that at this phase of life, it's about taking what you've learned, and for those that intuitively you feel to share it with, then share it. But you don't need to change anybody.
That's interesting. I felt similar, not quite as articulate, an evolution myself too. I used to be more of an activist and think I need to save the world kind of stuff. And lately I don't know if it's partly a matter of giving up, like you're not going to change the world, first of all. It's not going to succeed. Probably. But also maybe it doesn't need to. Maybe you're looking a little puzzled, and I'm feeling a little puzzled actually as I say that, because yeah, some things do need to change. I still feel some belief in this idea that hopefully the chaos we're in now is evolving towards something like a new Earth or a higher level, 0.2, 0.3, whatever it is, for humanity, where we can live in more peaceful and harmonious ways with nature and with each other. And I do have some commitment or belief in that idea, but I don't feel so much like I have all the answers to how to get there. Increasingly, I'm feeling like the answer, if anything, is just to raise one's own level of consciousness or frequency, to just be more loving and accepting. How do you...
I would agree with, especially with that last part. It's like, the only thing I can do is keep my oxygen mask, and then I can help somebody else if they ask me to help them with theirs. Not to hide, we'll call it light, not to hide who I am, because I don't even know who the heck I am, but not to try to project it like I am all knowing, all wisdom. You know, whenever anybody does try to put me on in the past, I think that's how I developed a lot of the humor, is that people would start, they had never heard these words, especially from a guy back in the 80s, because it was all women, which was pretty nice. I was divorced at the time. I was the only one going to the workshops, but it's kind of like, no, that's just my idea. So I would throw a lot of humor in there, and they didn't know whether to believe me or not. They had to make up their own mind. All I can do is just be honest and truthful to myself as best that I can. And you do make a difference. You especially make a difference. And it's not about, in my estimation, about changing the world. Just continue being Susan, and the world will ripple that back out. If there's more Susans in the world, that ripple gets bigger and bigger. But if you try to get everybody to be in the Susan camp, that's going to cause conflict, because some people are going to say, well, I want to be a Barbara, I want to be this. It's like, just be who you are, and it affects everybody else.
That's a good way to put it. I think that be the best, Buddha's last words, do your best. Just do the best to be the kind of being that you are with your talents.
Have a good time, have some fun. Enjoy life.
Okay, so what comes up for me is my Krishnamurti conditioning, when he said it's egoic or it's self-centered and that kind of idea. That's where I counter a little bit of a, I don't know.
So I'm not sure if I understand his philosophy completely, but just from the words that you use, I want it to be all about me. That's perfectly fine with me. Long as it's not about me at the expense of you. If I decide, if right now it was bright and sunny out and I decided that, you know, hey, it's too good of a day to continue on our dialogue, I want to go hiking, I would say thank you very much for the conversation, and it might become about me. My point being is that if I'm not harming somebody else, the better I am, the happier I am, the more joyful I am, the more about me I am, the better it is for everybody else. I have so many people say, man, I wish I could do what you do. I said, it's choices. None of my family lives out here, but I thrive out here. I had a vision, a meditation, whatever, years ago that told me that the way I'm living right now was my best path. And so I took that path. It was a lot of hardships to take that path. And there was a ripple effect that did cause some problems and complications in other people's lives. But in the long term is that I had to be true to me without directly trying to harm somebody else. There's always ripples that some people may have, you know, you decide that you want to go into the high-speed lane, and the guy behind you got cut off and he missed his appointment. Indirectly, you caused that, but you didn't really cause it.
Yeah. It seems like a good philosophy.
Yeah, I mean,
it seems like it's
seems to work.
Probably a little different from the original Catholic teachings you were raised in.
There again, after the third grade, I don't consider myself, you know, I went to the Catholic schools and things like that, but I never was ingrained.
Hellfire and damnation.
Yeah, I mean, it's just all of it just didn't make sense to me. It's like, even as a little kid, it's like, that doesn't feel right.
That's interesting. Yeah, so for some people, like for Richard, my husband, that really affected him a lot.
Yeah.
I think, you know, he had that fear.
Well, when you got an authority figure up there that is constantly belittling, well, and not to get into my biases on some of the religions, constantly trying to indoctrinate you into their way of being the only way, and it may be a great way.
I don't think so. None of it involves
Well, but I think there's different there's different ways of
all
doing
the
it.
religious persecution we've seen.
Yeah, but I mean, there's different ways of being. For instance, my sister, I love her to death. She's brought all her kids up Catholic. She's very Catholic, and yet it's nothing like the experience that what other people have had with being Catholic, to where it's like, doing it out of fear and guilt. She's just a good person. I mean, she's as saintly as anybody comes.
Yeah.
But that's just who she is, and that's the path that she took, and that works for her.
Yeah. No, I've seen that too. Yeah, I agree. Well, it's really an interesting conversation. There's one other thing I was thinking of when we were talking there. What was that? I was really curious about with you.
I'm always curious about.
Okay, well, you said you don't know who you are.
I think I have an idea, but it's like, it's something I made up. It works for me. I don't know. Every once in a while, I'll have people that, I used to walk into some of the metaphysical things back in the 80s, and they would stop the class and say, "Oh, thank you for coming." It's like, who the hell are you talking to? But so they recognize something.
They felt they recognized you as some special soul.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, everybody wants to feel a little special type of thing. But it's like, I didn't do anything. I just walked in the room. So.
Yeah, and that's similar, it sounds like, to what I perceived of you too, because I just feel like you're kind of mysterious. Like, tell about, things like this that really haven't happened to a lot of people that I know of.
I don't know what the word mysterious really means, as far as I'm not being, if I do come out or is presented as mysterious, it's not because I've got this persona that I'm trying to make everyone think I'm mysterious. It's like, I may be wired a little bit different than other people, and if they got questions, I'll answer them, but it's like, that seems mysterious because it's like, oh, wait a minute, he did that, and he did that, and he did that. It's like, sometimes I sit back and say, I did that, I did that, I did that. It's like, wow.
I can say some of that about myself too, but I don't think I did it as much as you did. So anyway, it's like, there really was a lot of experimentation going on in the 70s and 80s, 60s, 70s, and 80s with all these things that I think a lot of people then got into making a living, raising kids.
Oh yeah, no, I had many of people that I knew before they made it big. Some of them are still nationally, internationally known type of things. I have also seen many people that has connected with a gift, started profiting off the gift, lost the gift, and they kept going on anyway because that's who all of a sudden who they think that they are, as opposed to that tool is no longer being used type of thing. One reason why I quit doing the regressions and things, I had a lot of people that had a lot of really positive things happening, but at that point in my life, it was becoming a widget. And what I mean by that is that, okay, to pay the rent, I got to do this many sessions, and my focus was more so on what I was doing as opposed to how I was doing it. One of the lessons I've learned in this life over and over again is that I'm always provided for, and work, relationships, anything is not my source. The source will take care of me.
You've had that attitude for a long time.
I have that attitude, but it's been reinforced more so, I would say, since I've been in Sedona, because the ebbs and the flows. I've had a couple of ebbs that, one time I was getting ready to move into my RV, into my CRV, my little Honda. I was making it into I took out a seat. I was going to put a bed. I had no money. I had no job. And my house was going away. One of the first ones I had here in Sedona. And I thought, well, if I have to live in a car. And then at the last minute, boom, 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 everything took place. But I realized during that time that I'm always taken care of. Sometimes I've got to get out of my own way, but source, God, universe, Charlie, whatever the name is, will always take care of me.
You spend a lot of time hiking in nature. You've mentioned 12,000 miles or something like that hiking around here. Why do you do that?
I don't know. I talk to friends of mine that they go up mountains like I do, and it's kind of like, why'd you go to the top of that mountain? Because I wanted to see what it was like up there. It's like kind of pulled. Somebody asked me, what's why I go to church? And I said, I go to the church almost every day because I'm out on the trails. And that's my church. That's my universe. That's my God connection. I do the Vortex tours, and people ask me about where's the best place to connect. I said, if you see a rock or a tree and it pulls you, go sit underneath it and you'll connect. Especially here in Sedona, because all of Sedona is a big vortex. But You could do that anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
just with your intention. So my being on the trails is my way of communing with all that is. And that's how toning started, giving thanks. When I couldn't, I would send out sounds so that I would, be able to give my appreciation to what was going on when I'm walking the trails and type of things. And I thrive by doing that. So it's obviously something that's working for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's beautiful. I wonder if we could close with your doing a toning.
Oh, I can always do a tone or two. I say as my voice goes out. Wow. So in answer to your request for toning, I call it toning with intent. And I just come up with what my thought is, and then I see what kind of sound comes out. Often it comes out in threes. Often I'll jump around like I'm being electrocuted and it's not having a fit. I have to watch toning on ledges though, because whoop, 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 type of thing.
Oh.
So just giving thanks for this connection with you, for this day, for this metaphor of a life that we're living in. Oh,
Wow. Oh, I could feel some healing energy in my knee, which has been having some pain.
can be
as you
used
said.
for that too.
Yeah. And also, you said something today I've not heard, that you're writing a book, or you've written a book?
Oh, I wrote a book maybe 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
It's called Success is Freedom Now. Short little book. It was
Good.
part of the motivation was to give some of my stories so that it could be, we'll call it a roadmap. It was primarily, the thought was for my kids, but for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at a roadmap, people may decide, I don't want to go there, so I won't go down that road.
Yeah.
Or you might say, oh, that's a nice road, I'll try that.
Yeah.
So it's just different episodes of my life, different key things in my life that I put into the book, so that it was, I needed to do that, but also that if the kids, people in general, ever wanted to see where that
Mm-hmm.
path took me,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty much it's all the same. At the end, I had a lot more things about what my supplemental diet was, because back then I was taking a lot of vitamins and things like that. I don't do those kind of things anymore. That's a whole nother story with that. But yeah, so I wrote that about 10 years ago. I needed to put that out.
Have you ever been asked to do lectures and things like that?
I've been asked and have done over the years workshops and talks and things. No, it's never been a big focus.
Yeah.
I've got this thing about sharing information, but I never want to be in a place to where I could be considered somebody's guru. I think I told you once in one of the potlucks I got investigated for being the head of a cult. And that's just because of the fact that people's lives were changing, and they were twisting the whole story around trying to incriminate somebody, and somehow a couple people's life changes came back to me because they had done, my soul regression.
Oh.
And so I had to explain that this is what
Yeah.
really happened.
Yeah, interesting. When I was young, I thought, I think I'd like to be a spiritual teacher. That sounds like a fun job, but I don't think I'm up to that, and I don't know if I'll ever be up to that. So I guess I won't do it. But what does that mean anyway, to be a spiritual teacher? To say that you have some special knowledge that someone else doesn't have, doesn't feel right to me. But to say, here's what I've learned, and here's what, as you do, here's what I've learned, and here's how it is for me, and here's my philosophy.
Well, I think if you take the word spiritual out of it,
Yeah.
it's just what's it to be a teacher.
Yeah.
You're hopefully helping the other person have sparks of desire to learn some new things, and
Yeah.
you're giving them your experience. If you're just teaching rote and you're like, this is what you've got to do, and
Right,
you've got
yeah.
to memorize
Yeah,
this,
no,
it's
I
like,
get
that's
that.
not teaching.
Right.
And it's the same thing with spiritual things. If you're like, this is the only way to get to heaven, and
Yeah,
you got to do this,
yeah.
like, hey, I think I'm going to go for a hike.
Yeah.
Why don't you go for a hike?
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe it's time for you to go for a hike too.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's kind of clearing up a little bit.
a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Oh, this has been very interesting,
Yeah, it has
Susan.
been. Yeah, it really has been. Thank you so much. I
You're
really
quite
appreciate
welcome. You're a sweet
it.
person,
I'm gonna
and
check out your book.
like I had said, is that why should I say no when I can say yes? That's a chapter in that book.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, the chapters are
forward-
like 3 or 4 pages long.
I look forward to reading it.
Yeah,
And
it's-
you've never mentioned it in our potluck.
I don't
I'm
know.
gonna
It's something I
bring it
did a
up.
long time ago.
Yeah. Well, it's good.
Okay,
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
you're
All
welcome.
right. Thanks. Okay.
好，没有多大，也不大呀。
我你看了我的腰吧。
What she said.
Do you remember when you chose to be a member, to take your place in this magnificent human race? That you were given a magic wand, you could point at anything and have it be